Okay, let's set the scene. Imagine you're standing on a bloody battlefield in ancient Rome. A brutal civil war has just hit its climax. An entire army is completely shattered, and one of history's most famous or, infamous men is about to meet his end. What we're about to dive into are the final, tragic moments of Marcus Brutus. Yeah, that Brutus, the man who killed Caesar. I mean, wow. Those are Brutus's own words, spoken to the handful of followers he has left, standing right there in the middle of all that wreckage. It's such a chilling line, right? It sounds almost modern. It just perfectly captures the grim reality he's facing. You get the sense that for Brutus, all those high-minded ideals he fought for, they've just been washed away in a sea of violence. And he knows his own end is coming. All right, so let's really picture this. Brutus and what's left of his army, and I mean the very last remnants, are huddled together on a rock. They're like this tiny island of defiance, surrounded by a whole sea of their enemies. Their forces have just been completely annihilated by Mark Antony and Octavius. There's no way out, no chance of a last-minute victory. It's over. The dream of bringing back the Roman Republic, it died right there, on that field. And if you want to understand just how hopeless their situation was, get this. They sent out a scout, a guy named Statilius, to go check on their camp. A little while later, he signals with a torch. It's safe. And for just a second, there's this tiny flicker of good news. But then, he never comes back. He's gone, captured or jailed. See what I mean? Even the smallest sign of hope gets immediately swallowed up by death and defeat. It's just brutal. So Brutus knows what's coming next. He's facing certain capture, and he knows exactly what that means. He'll be dragged through the streets of Rome in chains, a spectacle in his enemy's victory parade. For a Roman noble, that's the absolute ultimate humiliation. So in his mind, there's only one honorable path left: to choose the moment of his own death. But to do that, he's going to need the help of a friend. And what happens next is just heartbreaking. One by one, he pulls his most loyal followers aside and makes this absolutely terrible request. He asks them to hold his sword steady so he can run onto it. But each one refuses. First, he asks Cletus, who just says, "Not for all the world." Then he asks Dardanius, who's just completely horrified by the idea. Finally, he turns to his old friend, his schoolmate, Volumnius, and he appeals to their lifelong friendship, hoping he'll understand. And Volumnius's response? Man, it just hits you. "That's not a friend's place, my lord." What a powerful line. It perfectly captures the impossible conflict these men are in, right? As soldiers, their duty is to obey their commander, no questions asked. But as his friends, they just can't bring themselves to be a part of his death. Their love for Brutus is what stops them from giving him what he wants most. So, why is Brutus so sure this is it? Well, he explains to Volumnius that he thinks he's being haunted by the ghost of the very man he assassinated, Julius Caesar. He's seen the ghost twice. Remember, he killed Caesar for what he thought was the good of Rome, for this high ideal. But that one act has followed him, and now he's convinced his fate is totally sealed by these supernatural forces. Okay, so the enemy army is getting closer. You can hear them coming. And all of his friends have refused to help him die. At this point, you see a shift in Brutus. He knows he only has moments left, so he stops asking for death, and instead, he starts reflecting on his life. He's getting ready to say a final farewell to the few loyal men who have stuck with him to the bitter end. And in this final speech, Brutus basically reframes his own story, right there at the end. It's fascinating. On one side, he says his greatest joy is that every man he's known has been faithful to him. Think about that. On the other side, he actually claims a kind of moral victory. He says that this losing day will actually bring him more glory than his enemies will ever get from their vile conquest. It's like he's saying, yeah, I lost the battle, but I didn't lose my honor. Night hangs on my eyes. My bones crave rest. You can just feel the exhaustion in those words, can't you? The immense weight of it all. The fight is finally over for him. He's made peace with his fate. And in a final act as their commander, he tells his remaining men to run, to save themselves. He's protecting his soldiers right up to the very end. So his men start to scatter, trying to escape. But then Brutus calls one man back, a man named Strato. The others, his closest friends, refused him out of love and horror. But Brutus has one last chance, one last person to ask, to secure the honorable death he believes is his right. And you've got to pay attention to how he asks Strato. It's different this time. He doesn't command him like a general. He appeals to him as an equal, man to man. He praises Strato's reputation, his honor. It's this respectful, almost gentle plea. He's putting the final decision completely in Strato's hands. Will you, Strato? And Strato, he agrees. There's no big dramatic speech, no hesitation. It's just this quiet, sad, simple action. He asks to shake his master's hand. They say their farewells, and then he holds the sword steady. It's just an incredibly somber, intimate moment. A moment of profound loyalty and profound tragedy. And as he runs onto the blade, Brutus says his last words. Caesar, be still now. I didn't kill you half as eagerly. He's speaking directly to that ghost that's been haunting him. It's like his own death is the final payment, a way to appease Caesar's spirit. And in that final moment, he seems to find a kind of peace. He's admitting that taking his own life feels more certain, more right, somehow, than when he killed Caesar. Okay, so literally seconds after Brutus dies, who shows up? The victors. Mark Antony and Octavius ride onto the scene. And what do they find? They find Brutus's body with just one man, Strato, kneeling beside it. Now, you'd expect them to gloat, right? To kick the body, to condemn the traitor, but what happens next is truly remarkable. Before they can even say anything, Strato stands up and speaks defiantly, right to their faces. He insists that his master wasn't defeated by them. No, Brutus conquered himself. He boldly claims the honor of the moment for Brutus, completely denying them any glory from his death. I mean, can you imagine the courage that took? It's just incredible. And the contrast here is just, wow, it's fascinating. Brutus saw his own honor in the loyalty of his men. But the ultimate verdict on his life? It comes from his greatest enemy, Mark Antony. After all this fighting, years of civil war, and bitter hatred, Antony doesn't gloat. No, instead, he delivers one of the most famous eulogies in history. Antony lays it all out. He says, look, all the other guys who conspired against Caesar, they did it out of petty envy. But Brutus was different. Antony says Brutus acted from an honest, principled belief that he was doing what was best for Rome. Now, this wasn't just Antony being a good sport. This was politically brilliant. By praising Brutus's motive, Antony basically steals the moral high ground of the Republican cause. He positions himself as a unifier, not just another conqueror. Super smart. And the final piece of this puzzle, the final restoration of Brutus's legacy, comes from Octavius, the guy who would become the first Roman emperor. He's the one who gives the command, give Brutus a full, honorable burial. Treat him not like a traitor, but like a soldier. So in death, his enemies give him the exact respect and honor he was so desperate for in his final moments. And of course, in doing so, they just cement their own power and authority. Which leaves us with this huge question, right? It's really the question at the very heart of Brutus's entire story. Even Antony seemed to think the answer might be yes. Think about it. Brutus betrayed and killed his friend, Caesar, for what he believed was a higher ideal. So, does that make him a hero, or does it make him a villain? His story gives no easy answers, and it really makes you think about those blurry, complex lines between honor, betrayal, and what we leave behind.